Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Pay Us No Mind. And today, I wanted to jump on and talk about a new tool I built called Music Marketing Metric Calculators, man. You know, it's a mouthful. Pause. Right? But yeah, man, these tools are a series of calculators that help artists investigate how much it would cost to achieve certain goals. So it's like the reasoning for me creating this tool or this series of calculators was a lot of times when I was managing campaigns for artists, they didn't know what to spend. They didn't know what their budget should be. They didn't know what the results would be like. You know, because at the end of the day, it's not an exact science. Nobody knows how many people are gonna respond and things of that nature. So it's like all anybody can do is just say, okay, we're gonna try our best. And the artist is like, okay, well, I wanna spend $100, I have $1,000, whatever it is. And they have no clue what they're gonna get back for their money. And then it just becomes a matter of read and react, where you spend money and if you get good results, then you keep doing whatever it is that you were doing to get those results. And if you get bad results, then you assume that either A, ads don't work, or B, you just don't know what you're doing with them. And if you can't afford to hire somebody, you quit. And you don't really understand how things fit in the larger ecosystem of things and what you can expect for the money that you're spending and how you can build on what you can expect for the money that you're spending. So I created these tools, these calculators, just as a way to help artists understand, okay, well, if they're gonna spend X amount of dollars, here's what you can expect back, and here's what kind of performance you can expect spending your money on different things, from ad campaigns to influencer campaigns, things of that nature, for you to understand, okay, well, where is my budget gonna be best spent? Now, here we're gonna walk through an example. So it's like, let's say I had the lofty goal of getting 1 million streams for $100. That was my goal. I wanted to get 1 million streams for $100. Now, I could come into this performance estimate calculator and I could select a platform that I want to advertise on, because each platform has different rates. So TikTok has different ad rates than Facebook, which has different ad rates from YouTube and Google, which has different ad rates from Spotify Ad Studio. Everybody has their own ad rates. So let's say I went with Facebook ads. Then I can select a country. And again, each country has its own ad rates. So it's cheaper to advertise in a country like Brazil than it is to advertise in a country like the United States. But I'm in the United States, so let's say I wanted to focus there. Now, what would it take me? So you look at these things. So we know streams, 1 million streams, that's the goal. $100, that's the budget. Streams per listener, that's how many times one person is likely to stream your music per month. Now, there is a range for this. So it's like a light listener should be around 5 streams a month, somewhere around there, because when you consider how many playlists that you might get on from different personal playlists they have to their personal library to algorithmic playlists, you should be able to get 5 streams a month from a listener that you acquire from an ad campaign. And if you can't, then, you know, that says a lot about the music. So you got light, moderate is maybe around 20 streams a month. Heavy is around 30. You know, if you wanted to go to like we could add a super fan metric here too, because super fans, that would probably be like around 100 streams a month, because a super fan would be somebody that playlisted every song, got every album saved to their library, got deep algorithmic infiltration where they're getting put on every playlist that Spotify serves up to them, things of that nature. And that's what would culminate in that 100 streams per month. But the goal here is to keep it conservative. We want a floor. we want to know, like, what's the worst we could do, right? Like, what's the worst we could do? So here we're going to go with streams per listener. We're going to keep it light. Pay rate per stream, we're going to keep that at average, right? So that's around 3,000ths of a cent Spotify pays. But the goal of running these campaigns is not really to make money. You know, the goal is to get exposure, find listeners, and then leverage those listeners to bring more listeners to make money. You know, so you're not going to be looking directly at how much you make from the ad campaign that you run. It's about setting yourself up long term, almost like going to college. You know, you go to college to get a degree, to set yourself up to get a career, not so much to get a job. Like you're not going to college to be hired while you're in college. You know what I'm saying? People that want that, they go work someplace else, right? Like they go get a job, they go work at Home Depot or do construction or something like that, you know? But yeah, when you look at the results, you see exposure. Now, exposure tells you the amount of people that your ad reached, technically, right? This is how many people your ad reached. So this $100 advertising to people in the United States is likely to get you exposed to around 4,882 people. That's how many people your ad is likely to be exposed to. Now, when you look at the amount of listeners you would need 200,000 listeners. Now that is a conversion rate of 4,096%. So that is an extreme over-index. So you would need to over-index in order to reach this number of 1 million streams. Now, what does it mean to over-index? What it means to over-index is you got to go viral. Basically, that means that the people that you reach for this $100, this 4,882 people that you reach, they would need to share it on social media and expose it to their audiences, which would expose it to their, so it's like a chain reaction, right? Every share exposes you to an audience, and everybody that shares within that audience exposes you to another audience. So it's like 100 times 100 times 100 over and over again. And the same thing goes for playlists. So you could get on one playlist and accomplish this if you get on the right playlist, right? So it's like you can go do $100, reach 4,000 people, get 3 people to playlist that have a massively popular playlist, and then boom, you on your way to 1 million streams. So the whole thing here is not to say that it's impossible. It just tells you, okay, here's what it's gonna take. You would need some assistance. You would need either to get playlisted or shared. So what this informs you of is, hey, if you are running an ad campaign and this is your goal, you want to get 1 million streams for $100. If you do not see that the song is being heavily shared and playlisted at a high rate, then that is not the song. That's not to say that it's a bad song. It's just to say that it is not the song that's right for this goal. Your goal is to get 1 million streams for $100. And to do that, you need something that is more inclined to have virility, you know, and spread. So if it's not something that people are likely to share or likely to playlist at a high rate, then that's not going to be the song for this objective. Now, we can expand this out and we can see, okay, well, if you got 1 million streams, how is this likely to impact you long term? So out of these 1 million streams, you're likely to get 10,000 saves. And from these 10,000 saves, you're likely to get 50,000 streams per month. So this is your long-term outlook. Your long-term outlook, if you were able to get 1,000 streams one time, would be 50,000 streams per month. That's what you would have long-term. Now, if you expand this out and you say, okay, well, what if I increase the number of streams per listener and the people that I exposed my music to were fans of it, like they liked it, you know, moderate. That reduces the amount of listeners you would have to get. Still a high number that would require some level of virility, but it gets lower. And the more active the listeners, the lower the number. So what this means is catalog, right? The larger your catalog and the more effectively you can drive each person that comes to listen to your music into your catalog, the more likely you are to reach this 1 million streams number. So this is what this stuff will tell you. Now, if you're spending more money, what does that impact? Spending more money allows you to reach more people. So a larger budget will result in more exposure. But you're still reaching the same, you still need to get the same amount of listeners, right? And what it impacts is the conversion rate. So you see, the more money you spend, the lower conversion rate you need. So if you spent $10,000 to get 1 million streams, you would need to convert 40% of the listeners that were exposed to your music, 40%. And that would be 488,000. So almost 500,000 people you would have to expose your music to. Now, if you start looking at other countries and you go and you say, okay, well, what if I targeted other countries? Would it be cheaper? You look at the Philippines, and yeah, you get more. Almost 1 million people your music gets exposed to. Conversion rate, 21%. So the conversion rate reduces. Now, if we did $100, 200,000 listeners, 9,000 people, still really high. No matter what, with the 100, you're still gonna need some level of virility. So you got that for performance estimate. And then we got budgets here. We got different calculators for like budgets. So if you were like, okay, gonna come in here, select Ad Studio, go to United States and say, okay, 1 million streams, that's my target goal. And I'm trying to see how much it would cost me to get 1 million streams. So the other calculator allows me to see how I can get 1 million streams for $100. This calculator allows me to see how much it would cost me to get 1 million streams based on a few parameters. So here we could come in and we could say, okay, well, streams per listener. Catalog wise, one song, you got 5, that's about 5 streams a month. If you got more than one song, you could say moderate, right? If you got an extensive catalog, you could go to conversion rate. Conversion rate, you got cold leads. Cold leads are people who have no awareness of you. They've never been exposed to your music. They have no idea you exist. That's a cold lead. Warm leads are people who have been exposed to you. So let's say somebody talked about you on their Instagram account before, and if you pay that person to post your song to their Instagram account, you're likely to experience a higher conversion rate because those listeners are more familiar with you. And hot leads are people who are somewhat fans of yours. So it's like Drake advertising his music to people who are Drake fans to basically allow them or to let them know that a release is available for sale. They will buy it if they know it exists. So it's just a matter of getting it in front of them. That's what is a hot lead. But when you are going through this, again, we are looking for a conservative outlook because we want to know what the floor is. What's the least amount we can expect for this money, so we know, okay, at the worst, here's what I might get for this, right? So you got conversion rate. Then you go to pay rate per stream, which is not that big of a deal because, again, we're not looking for a return on investment monetarily from an ad campaign. Not initially anyway. Long term, yeah. Initially, no. So what would it take? So to get 1 million streams with these parameters set, with a moderate stream per listener and a targeting cold leads, it would take you a budget of over $500,000 in order to hit this goal of 1 million streams. Now, if we reduce this and we say, okay, well, what about 1,000 streams? Well, then everything gets lower. Estimated budget to get 1,000 streams, about $540. Right? You reach 33,000 people, you get 50 listeners. From those 50 listeners, You might get about 2.5 saves. Long-term stream projection, about 50 streams long-term. That's what you can expect for spending that $540. Now, understanding the value of each listener matters greatly, because the more releases you put out, the more streams you get per listener and the more revenue you earn per listener. So that's like the next calculator that we're going to build, one that allows you to kind of like do things like lifetime customer value and things of that nature, so you understand the value of an individual listener. So we got that. And you got stream estimates, which allows you to identify how many streams you could get for a particular budget. So you could come here and again, Spotify, and we could go to the United States, and we can see, okay, $100, light streams per listener, cold leads, right? Gets to 6,000 people, 9 listeners, 46 streams. That's what we can expect from this. Long term, not even a save. Stream projection like 2. So this is what we could see as the floor for spending $100 on an ad campaign. Now, if you had warm leads that you were targeting, things change. Increase in listeners, increase in stream projection, hot leads, things change. You change streams per listener, things change. You change to a country with a currency that's weak against the dollar, look how things change, right? So it's like targeting countries with currencies weak against the dollar, you get way more mileage for your money. And remember, streams aren't like sales, because with sales, you know, location matters because you got currency conversions and things of that nature that factor into the equation. But streams, all that matters is the numbers. So if you've got 1 million streams or 1,000 streams or whatever have you, all they see is, okay, you got people listening to your music. Who do those people listen to? So if you're targeting people in Panama that are fans of the artists that you feel like your music is similar to, and you get this number of streams, it should trigger something and result in your music being exposed to more people. So that's the other thing to recognize with this too. This is just a launch pad. So you expose your music to a small group of listeners, and then something else happens, right? These people, because every playlist exposes you to an audience, and a percentage of that audience playlists the song. And that exposes you to another audience, and a percentage of that audience playlists the song. So it just goes on and on and on as far as exposure goes by you bringing a few people in. Now, with this calculator, we could take a look at sales, because recently there's been a resurgence in artists' interest in selling music. Hold on, let me check something. Yeah, recently there has been a resurgence in artists selling music. So artists are like, yo, man, Spotify is screwing everybody over, saying, hey, you know, you can't make money if you get fewer than X amount of streams. And artists are like, yo, man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell my music direct to fan. So let's take a look at what happens if you try to sell your music direct to fan and you don't have fans. You don't have a pre-existing audience that is waiting for you to deliver a release to them to buy. So we can say, okay, we got to advertise to expose this album that we got. And we're going to target the United States because, again, currency conversions and things of that nature makes it more complicated to get sales overseas. So now here you go. You want to get, let's say you want to get 10 buyers. You want to get 10 buyers. You're advertising on Facebook to the United States, trying to get 10 buyers. Casual sales, like sales per buyer, casual. That means maybe one sale. They might buy one thing from you. You know, conversion rate, we're going to go cold leads because we don't have an audience. We're just trying to find an audience. And the rate, we're going to say we're releasing a single. Right? That's like 99 cents. An EP might be like $5. An album is around $10. So that's what the rates that we got set here. Now, based on these metrics, if you wanted to get 10 buyers, that would take a budget of $136,000, over $136,000, and an exposure of over 6 million people to get 10 sales. That's what it would take, conservative outlook. And if you increase that and you go and you say, okay, well, what if it was warm leads? Well, then it drops to 13,000. Okay, hot leads. Then it drops to 1,000. So you can see here that sales can work if you have hot leads. So a lot of times when the people who are talking about selling music direct to fan, they are people who have fans or have supporters. Like, they might not be people who are fans of their music, but they're people who support them, to where if they come and they say, hey man, here's how you can support me. Support me by buying my music. Then those people will support them by buying their music. And then they can say, oh man, well, look, I made X amount on streams and here's how much I made from sales. But at the end of the day, they only made that amount because they already had people willing to buy. If they had to advertise, then it just would have made absolutely no sense to do, So you got to understand where you're starting from. So if you got the clientele, then yeah, you could sell music and make more money and live off your clientele. But if you don't and you got to build something, then sales is going to take you too much money to make anything happen. And that's something that, you can use this calculator to kind of investigate what it would take. Now, maybe you got it to lose. So it's like you could say, well, look, I got 136,000 to spend. I'll get 10 buyers. And especially because what it comes down to too is how much are these buyers spending with you. So if these buyers are only buying one release for 99 cents, well, that ain't no money. But let's say you're selling NFTs or selling music like fine art, and you are selling it for like $100 a release or $1,000 a release, then 10 buyers makes sense. So it all comes down to what you're doing and how you're moving. Now, another calculator we got here is for influencer campaigns. So a lot of times artists look at people on Instagram and you say, well, this guy has 2 million followers and he's saying, hey, give me $500 or whatever have you, and I'll post your content to my social media feed. And you're expecting a lot of activity from that because you look at how many followers the guy got and you assume that is going to result in something for you. Now, this allows you to investigate that based on like the averages and things of that nature. So if I come here and I say, hey, I got an Instagram influencer. They have 1 million followers, right? The influencer I'm targeting has 1 million followers. And he's trying to charge me $500 for a post. Now, these are cold leads, people that have never heard of me or my music. And we assume the engagement rate will be low. And we can look at what we would get from that influencer with 1 million followers. And we can see, hey, we would get 50,000 people or 50,000 feeds that the post is likely to appear in. Because just because they have 1 million followers does not mean that 1 million people are going to have the post appear in their feed. There's a whole bunch of things that impact whether somebody sees something in their feed, like the time of day they post, how often the person is online, how often that person engages with the account. So on average, you're talking about maybe 10%. So if you cut that in half and go to 5, that's where we get this 50,000, right? Again, conservative numbers. So it's like from these 1 million followers, you can almost bank that you're going to get exposed to about 50,000 people. And from those 50,000 people, 3,800 are likely to take any action that would allow you to identify that the post was actually seen. So this exposure to 50,000 people, you don't really know who saw it, right? So you can't really identify that 50,000 people got exposed to this post. Like the person could tell you, hey, here was the impressions that I got, but most don't. They'll just tell you, hey, here's how many likes or whatever have you. So reach is a matter of engagement. This is what you would get from the engagement rate. So the engagement rate is the reach. And what Facebook counts as engagement is a view of a post that lasts for at least 3 seconds. So if somebody scrolls through the feed and stops on your video for 3 seconds, that's considered engagement. So that allows you to identify, okay, at least this person watched it. Didn't watch it for long, but they watched it. So maybe you got some name recognition out of it. But here, you don't know if they pay any attention. From the standpoint of exposure, you don't know if they pay any attention at all. But reach, you know, at a minimum, maybe name recognition. And then you look at how many buyers you would get for that. None. And the cost per buyer would be like $6,000. So if you look at that from the standpoint of streams, and we go streams and say, okay, well, what if, because we wouldn't get no sales with buyers, but if we did streams, what would be the outlook? So streams, we walk away with something. We get 7 listeners, 37 streams, not worth 500. And I'm not going to say it's not worth $500, because at the end of the day, it becomes a matter of who are these 7 listeners. So it's like if you get on if one of these 7 listeners is a tastemaker, meaning somebody that people look to for what's hot and what's next, and they playlist your song, then you could get 20 times worth what you paid if that happens. So it becomes a matter of who you're being exposed to and not how many people you're being exposed to. So the value of the campaign would depend on the value of the audience of whoever you're targeting, like whatever influencer you're working with. You know? Now, I'm going to open up the floor if anybody want to ask any questions about it or whatever have you. But yeah, man, I built this tool to help artists build, you know, and properly plan and strategize releases so they know how to get to where they're going and what ways are going to help them get there. You know, that's what I did. Now I'm here, y'all. If y'all want to say anything about the tool or ask any questions or have me investigate something or anything to that in that regard, all right, y'all? I'm going to sit here in silence as you guys comment, whatever it is. Yeah, man. But yeah, yo, I mean, at the end of the day, knowledge is power. And the more you know, the better off you'll be. And my goal is just to provide as much information as I can. So it's like I built that calculator because y'all saw me with some of the other things that I had started with, you know, where I started with like the distribution calculators. I started with the distribution calculators to help artists identify return on investment from the distributors that they use. That was the initial thing that I had started with. So it's like this was the start. Let me fix this. Yeah. So this was the start of what I ultimately ended up building with the marketing calculators. So I started here where somebody could come in and select a digital distributor and select a plan and select a number of albums, say 1, select a number of years, say 3, and say, okay, well, revenue earned, I earned $1,000, and identify how much they'd lose, like with all things considered, all the fees factored into it, you know, like everything they would have to pay to the distributor. What would they walk away with? So you could walk away with for $850 and lose $149 if you was using a distributor like TuneCore, you know, and you can see how many streams you would need to recoup the cost. So how many streams, sales, content ID, total, all of these things factored into it for you to understand what it would take to recoup the cost of digital distribution, you know, and it's breaking that down across different distributors and different plans. So this is what we're building, man, you know, and we got this new platform coming called Marketing Brains, right? Where I'll be providing just a lot like these calculators as well as like guides and kind of like strategy sheets. And what this is it's also a basis for like consultations and stuff like that, because, you know, an artist could come into the calculator, poke around, find a goal, and then be like, okay, here's the numbers. How can I get there? And that's when you got something to talk about. Then we can get on the phone and be like, all right, here's a pathway to get what you're trying to get. But yeah, I'm gonna get up out of here. I appreciate everybody that tapped in, you know. If anybody got anything to say, you could post it in the comments to the video. Make sure you click the link in the description box to check out the calculator. As always, y'all can hit me up at PayUsNoMind on Instagram, at PayUsNoMind on Twitter, PayUsNoMind@gmail.com. This is Gift signing off. Pay us no mind. Peace, good people. 1.